And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're receiving this information. My name is Rafael Vasquez Guzman, and this is your show, Líderes del Futuro. We're typically on KBBF Bilingual Radio every Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we are on Instagram, and we are on Facebook, and we have our YouTube channel. Today, we wanted to have a conversation with Carlos Madrigal Lara, who is a teacher in Healdsburg High School. And Carlos, I've been telling you that we are going to do this interview for a couple of months now, and we finally get to do it today. And I'm excited. Thank you for, you know, for I think we were both able to work on our schedules, and we're doing this recording on a Sunday of all days when we both should be resting. But I think it's important for the community, especially during these challenging times in this country. It is essential that we are collaborating and we're having this conversation about the great work that you're doing over at Healdsburg Junior High, a school that you yourself attended. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your position is over there, what work do you do, and then we'll go back to where are you originally from and why it's so important for you to work in this school.
Yeah, so I teach math. I'm the seventh grade math teacher here at Healdsburg Junior High, and I'm the only seventh grade math teacher.
And how long have you been doing this and what motivates you? Because it is unusual for a Latino male and to also be teaching this type of material. A lot of the Latina community, we end up teaching history or humanities or social science, that is, whatever the situation, but not chemistry and biology, and in this situation, math. Why is it so important for you to do this work?
Yeah, so I'm in my second year of teaching currently. Um, Math, I feel like, is one of the most important subjects just in the educational system. For me, I felt like I always, not that it was easy, but I feel like I always was able to get lost in the math. I enjoyed it. And it's important because with a math degree, there's so many job opportunities. And I feel like if I, as a person of color, I can inspire other students of color and just anybody in general to pursue a career in math, or if not math, in STEM, or even any career in general. But just math, there's so many opportunities with math. So that's why it's important for me.
And you are the product of the Healdsburg Unified School District. Tell us about it. At what age did you arrive to Healdsburg? And again, why is it that it's so important for you to go back to that district and work for them?
Yeah, so I came to the US when I was 3. I was originally born in Michoacan, Mexico. At 3 years old, my parents decided, when I was 3, my parents decided to come to the US. And so my siblings and I, we grew up here in Hillsburg since 2001. My parents and myself have lived in Hillsburg. So I went through all of the schools here in Hillsburg. I graduated from Hillsburg High School. I promoted from this school, Hillsburg Junior High, and I continued college after graduating from high school. Then I transferred to Sonoma State. I got my math degree. I went into the credential program and got my teaching credential. And for me, it was always important to come back to Hillsburg. I knew that this is where I needed to be um, to teach. This is where it was my only option. It wasn't my only option, but this is where I had to be, um, because this is where I grew up. I know this system and I know these schools, so that's what I had to do.
And so that's important, right? So it's almost a way of saying, thank you for investing in me and in my education through elementary school, junior high school. Now I'm going to go, I'm going to get the education, and I'm going to come back and contribute to the same system that educated me and prepare the next generations of students who hopefully some of them will come back and teach there. Now, when you were in that system, how many people of color did you find? And why is it important to have diversity in these schools?
For sure. I think as a student, I had two, maybe I know I'm thinking of two teachers of color. Um, yeah, two. Maybe a couple more, but for sure I only had two. And that's important because most of our population here at Healdsburg, our student population, 60% are Latino, Latina students. And if that's not equally represented in staff members, then oftentimes the message that they're receiving is that they're not able to achieve um, jobs of authority in a sense. Um, so for me, it's important that they see that they can achieve jobs of authority, um, so that they, yeah, so that they can see that they can reach jobs of authority and succeed in them.
Definitely. And one of the things that we know for sure, I myself teach in an environment where about, what is it, 40 to 50% of the student population at the college are Latino, Latina, Latinx. And yet, the number of faculty, full-time faculty who are people of color is so limited. And so for some of my students, I asked them that question from the K-12, how many of your teachers were people of color that look like you? And some of those students graduated high school and they never had a teacher of color. And so it's about that mirroring where you see somebody that looks like you in the front of the classroom and you feel empowered. And in your situation, it's even more important because you have some students who have not mastered the English language yet. They are EL, English language learners. And so having somebody that you can that they can come to and maybe get clarification on math or simply any question, right? So tell us about those experiences. Do you get students who either come and ask questions about math or simply about anything?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I have some eighth grade students. They're not my students anymore. They were my students last year who their English has gotten a lot better already. They were new last school year, and um, I can tell that their English has gotten better. But I've always noticed that they were very comfortable in my classroom because I speak Spanish to them, and if need to, I'll speak English to them. Because sometimes they want to just play around and learn learn English, and so I will. Um, but for sure, it's important because when I'm instructing class, I if I have students who only know Spanish, then I will speak both languages so that they can feel comfortable, so that they understand what we're doing in class, and that's important so that they feel safe and comfortable to be successful.
And you just mentioned a key word there, and that is safe. You know, you create a space where students can come by. And one of the things that I tell people on a regular basis is if a student feels comfortable and safe in the classroom, they will not just come when is their class, but they'll come during the break, sometimes before school, sometimes after school. What has been your experience there with the students this year and last year?
Yeah, actually, so I make it my my goal to be here 30 minutes before we actually start class because it gets very cold and a lot of students want to be in a warm place. So I'm actually here at 7:40, 30 minutes before class starts, and my room is it's filled with a bunch of students who a bunch of them are not even my students anymore. They're eighth graders, so they were my students last year. Um, but they feel comfortable coming in here and just relaxing for 20, 15 minutes before class starts. And same thing during break and lunch. They enjoy being in here and having a space to just relax.
Absolutely. And again, students know where they are celebrated and not just where they are tolerated. And so if they keep coming back, is because, again, they feel that they are recognized. And obviously, we're talking to you as a person of color, but obviously, you don't just work with people of color, you work with all students, and you get all the students of different ethnicities who come by and visit with you. Now, how is it? As a person of color, as a male, who happens to be an immigrant, why is it possible for you to be able to work in the school system? Um, and at the same time, again, what motivates you to keep coming back every day?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest motivations are my parents, definitely. Um, First of all, it's possible because I have DACA. I have a work permit, a social security. Um, so the legal aspect, it's possible through DACA, which I'm very grateful for. And then the motivation has always been my parents. From a very young age, I saw my parents suffer a lot from their physically intense jobs. My dad works as a vineyard worker, and my mom works as a housekeeper at a hotel here in Healdsburg. And from a very young age, I saw that my parents were physically exhausted and tired. And oftentimes, when my parents would come home from work, they wouldn't want to do anything else because they were just so tired. And so, from a very young age, I knew that I had to go to college and pursue a career that wasn't as physically intense as their jobs were. They always told me that I had to go to college, and that was the biggest reason why my parents decided to come to the U.S. They sacrificed a lot for myself and my siblings. Um, they sacrificed their their whole family. So if I knew that I had to pursue a higher education just for my parents.
And being a DACA recipient has given you the opportunity to obtain a job, to get a driver license that is different from other undocumented people. But have you also been able to travel back to your home country?
Yeah, actually. So in summer of 2024 was my first summer where I didn't have to work because I had completed my first year of teaching, and I had the whole summer to to rest. And actually, through advanced parole, through DACA, I was able to apply for advanced parole, which is a one-time permit to travel back to Mexico. So after 21, 22 years of not having been able to go to Mexico, I was able to go to Mexico. And since I didn't have to work during the summer, I had plenty of time to visit where I was born, where I grew up for 3 years. I had the opportunity to meet my my only grandparent who is still here, and unfortunately, my other three grandparents have passed away since we came to the U.S. So it was it was really special being able to meet my grandpa and hang out with him. And take him places because he can't drive anymore. So just spending time with my grandpa was a great privilege. And then having my mom see pictures, well, my parents see pictures from Mexico, and they were just very happy that I was able to experience uh, what they experienced very long ago.
Definitely. It's challenging. And at the same time, right, it's challenging to go back. There's a lot of emotions, but at the same time, the opportunity is a unique thing that is part of DACA, um, at least part of this DACA program. And then that brings us to being a DACA recipient. You were part of a group of people who wrote a book, a collection of stories about DACA recipients. You were one of eight, seven of whom are Mexicans. One of our colleagues is from El Salvador. Tell us about the experience of sitting down and actually writing your story.
Yeah, so the experience was very, I would say, turbulent because at times it was very, very positive. At times it was also very um, sad and uh, almost depressive in a way. Um, through this process, I was able to learn a lot about the process of coming to the United States, which I didn't really know exactly, and just how difficult it actually is. Um, for example, I spent like a day without my parents, simply because of the process is challenging. Um, but it was also really good because I got to realize that like I've I've been able to accomplish a lot already, thankfully. And a lot of the times as Latinos, it's we don't celebrate our accomplishments. And that was also seeing my accomplishments and writing about my accomplishments was very special. And because I was able to realize that I have been able to be very successful in various aspects of my life. So that was special.
Definitely. It can be traumatic, but at the same time, as you said, celebrating successes, right? We didn't come here to waste the opportunity. We came here because we had to, but we are taking every opportunity. And what you're doing now as a teacher is you're giving back, right? It's something that often people don't pay attention to. And this is where I want to remind the community that if you can go to our website, if you would like to purchase the book, you can go to our website, lideresdelfuturo.org, lideresdelfuturo.org, and there will be a link, or you can go and find it on Amazon. And then we are going to have an event at Santa Rosa Junior College on March 25th at 6 p.m., where some of the authors of the book will be reading from the book, and then we'll have a Q&A situation to be able to, again, hear these powerful stories, and then they will be available to sign the books. But again, uh, Carlos, before we finish, again, I just want to go back and say it must feel as an accomplishment to be able to go back to Healdsburg Junior High School and be able to be in the same classroom, perhaps, where your teachers were at some point, and be mentored, perhaps, by some of the teachers that are still there or who maybe just retire. Um, and be part of the futures, I should say, of many of the students in Healdsburg.
Yeah, it was for sure very special. When I decided to become a teacher, I always knew that I had to return to Hillsburg as a teacher. I grew up, I went through all of these schools, so very, I, it's home for me. I knew that I had to return as a teacher because I had to give back to um, what I received as a student. It's funny because the classroom where my classroom now, I it was a history class when I was here, and I remember being in this classroom, and now it's my classroom, and this is where I teach math. Um, so for me, this was my dream job. I wanted to return to Healdsburg, and thankfully, I was able to teach here.
Definitely. And you were not just a student, but you also used to play soccer at some point. And last year, you were the coach for some of those students who play soccer for the school, right? So it's not just about the work that you do in the classroom, but the healthy friendships you develop with these children, and you and I have been at a local Mexican restaurant in Healdsburg, El Sombrero, and we were sitting there one time, just having lunch, and these kids, your students, came by and said hi, and they seemed to be super surprised that their teacher was outside of the classroom, and so that must make you feel wonderful to see the students who again recognize you and respect the work that you do.
Definitely, yeah. It also it means a lot to me when they feel comfortable going up to me and saying hi. I definitely enjoy it, and thankfully, like you said, I've been able to build those relationships with my students where they feel comfortable and just saying hi if they see me.
Definitely. Yeah. So we'll let you go because I know you have something else you have to take care of, but we want to thank you for taking the time and giving us the opportunity. Again, we've been planning this conversation for a while since you were part of writing this book, but we wanted to also introduce you from the point of view of a teacher over there at Healdsburg Unified School District. So thank you, Carlos, for taking the time and being with us today. And again, we look forward to having our next conversation. Take care.
Thank you, you as well.